The galaxy had always been a place of peace and cooperation. The many species that lived among the stars had their territories, their laws, and their ways of life. They were used to settling their differences through diplomacy or trade. But things were about to change. A new, unexpected threat was about to appear on the horizon. The Zara, a highly advanced alien species, had been expanding their empire across the galaxy for centuries. They were proud of their strength, their technology, and their control over numerous planets. Their fleet was unmatched, and they believed they could conquer any planet they chose. When the Zara learned about Earth, they didn't see it as anything special. To them, Earth was just another uninhabited rock with no advanced defenses. The Zara had no idea what they were about to face. On Earth, the inhabitants had no knowledge of the stars or of the many other species that inhabited the galaxy. Generations, humans had fought battles with nature itself. They had tamed the wild, learned to survive in the harshest environments, and faced every danger with resilience. Earth was a planet filled with life that could survive in the most extreme conditions, life that had learned to thrive even when the odds were against it. The Zara, in their arrogance, believed that their highly advanced technology and military power would make Earth's defenses a joke. Their fleet, which could destroy entire planets, was on its way to Earth. They expected to land, conquer the planet in a matter of days, return to their empire with ease. But they didn't count on one thing. Earth was home to Deathworlders. The Zara's first encounter with Earth came when their fleet entered the planet's orbit. They observed Earth from a distance, their sensors scanning the surface for any signs of life. They found cities, forests, oceans, and mountains. The planet appeared peaceful, its inhabitants busy with their everyday lives. They had no idea that an invasion was on its way. The Zara's invasion began without warning. Hundreds of ships descended from the sky, their weapons ready. They were prepared to strike quickly and overpower any resistance. However, they had underestimated Earth's natural defenses. What they did not realize was that the creatures of Earth were just as deadly as any advanced weaponry they had. At the moment of the Zara's descent, the humans below had no idea what was coming. Jake Harris, a soldier in the Earth Defense Force, had just finished his training exercises and was preparing for a break. He had heard rumors of strange objects in the sky, but no one took them seriously. After all, humanity had always been able to deal with threats, and the idea of an alien invasion seemed impossible. That was until the first explosion shook the ground beneath his feet. Jake was thrown to the ground by the blast. He quickly scrambled to his feet, his heart racing. He could hear the sounds of chaos around him as civilians screamed and scattered. The sky was filled with strange, massive ships that were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Their sleek metallic shapes gleamed in the sunlight, and their weapons unleashed devastation on the cities below. Jake's mind raced as he realized what was happening. The invasion had begun. He didn't waste any time. He rushed to his team, gathered his gear, and made his way to the front lines. He had trained for moments like this, but he had never imagined facing an enemy like the one now attacking Earth. The Zara's weapons were powerful, their technology far beyond anything humanity had developed. But Jake knew that humanity had something the Zara didn't understand: determination. As Jake and his squad approached the battlefront, they saw the devastation firsthand. The Zara ships were landing in various parts of the city, releasing squads of heavily armored soldiers. They were here to conquer, and nothing seemed able to stop them. The alien invaders moved quickly, their advanced armor and weaponry giving them an edge over the humans. But the humans had something that the Zara couldn't measure: an unbreakable spirit. Jake didn't hesitate. He gave orders to his team to take cover and start counterattacking. His soldiers, trained for combat in hostile environments, quickly adapted to the situation. The Zara were strong, but they didn't know how to fight in Earth's conditions. They didn't understand the terrain, the forests, the rivers, or the wild animals that roamed the land. What the Zara saw as weaknesses were the very things that would help humanity fight back. Jake's squad set up ambushes using the landscape, using Earth's natural resources to their advantage. Trees were used for cover, rocks as barriers, and water as a means of hiding their movements. The humans knew their environment better than the invaders ever could. And it was this knowledge that turned the tide in their favor. As Jake fought through the chaos, he realized that the Zara had no idea what they were up against. They thought of Earth as a harmless planet, but they were wrong. Earth was a death world, a place where life had evolved to survive the most dangerous conditions. And the humans, the Deathworlders, were not afraid to fight. The Zara's arrogance would be their downfall. They'd come to Earth expecting an easy victory. But they had underestimated humanity's strength, courage, and will to survive. Battle for Earth had only just begun, and the humans were ready to show the galaxy that they were not to be taken lightly. The Zara fleet had been on Earth's doorstep for less than an hour, and already their invasion was not going according to plan. They had underestimated Earth, and the humans were proving to be far more dangerous than they had expected. Jake and his team were in the heart of the city, working together to fight off the alien soldiers. They were armed with only their standard weapons, but they had something more, an intimate knowledge of their surroundings. The Zara soldiers, clad in heavy armor, were trained in advanced combat, but their equipment wasn't suited for Earth's unpredictable environment. As the Zara marched forward, their weapons charged and ready to destroy, Jake's squad used the environment to set up traps. They hid behind rubble, using it as cover, and launched surprise attacks. Earth's terrain, with its tall buildings, dense forests, and harsh weather, was a weapon in itself. The Zara were trained for open battlefields, not for the unpredictable urban and rural landscapes of Earth. Jake's squad set up sniper positions atop buildings, picking off the Zara soldiers from a distance. The Zara, for all their advanced technology, had no way of anticipating this kind of warfare. Earth's unpredictable terrain and the humans' guerrilla tactics left the aliens. Struggling to maintain their footing, Jake moved through the battlefield, barking orders, directing his squad, and making sure civilians were getting to safety. He knew the Zara weren't just an enemy, they were a force that could destroy everything they held dear. But Jake also knew that humanity had something the Zara didn't: heart. "We need to push them back," Jake shouted, his voice barely audible above the sounds of explosions and gunfire. His squad nodded in agreement. They had seen what the Zara were capable of, but they had also seen the strength of humanity. They weren't going to lose their planet without a fight. The humans had taken up positions all around the city, setting up barricades and using Earth's natural defenses to their advantage. The Zara had firepower, but the humans had the environment on their side. And the more the aliens advanced, the more they realized they were not in a simple war of technology versus technology. This was survival. At a nearby forest, a group of Zara soldiers was setting up to launch a full-scale attack. The trees around them swayed in the wind, their branches thick with leaves. But they didn't know that a group of humans had already set up a trap. As the Zara soldiers approached, the humans activated their devices. The ground beneath the aliens gave way, and the soldiers fell into a pit filled with spikes and metal traps. It was an old tactic, simple but effective. The Zara, confident in their technology, had failed to realize that the humans could be just as brutal. Jake watched from the distance as the traps worked. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Humans were proving their worth. And with every attack, the Zara were realizing they had made a grave mistake. They were not dealing with simple civilians. They were dealing with a species that had survived against impossible odds for centuries. The Zara commanders, who had been watching the battle unfold from their command center, were beginning to lose patience. They had expected quick success. The Zara were used to striking down weaker species, never encountering such resistance. They had believed that their advanced technology and highly trained soldiers would crush Earth's defenses. Instead, they were facing guerrilla tactics, unpredictability, and a relentless human spirit. "I told you we should have sent more ships," one of the Zara commanders muttered, frustration evident in his voice. "We underestimated them," another replied. "We thought Earth would fall like any other planet. Back on the ground, Jake's squad continued to make headway. As they moved deeper into the city, they found more and more survivors, people who had hidden or managed to escape the initial onslaught. Earth's people were tough, but they were not soldiers. Many civilians were too scared to fight back, but some had taken up arms, helping wherever they could. They were forming an army of their own. Jake saw the fear in their eyes, but he also saw determination. The humans were not giving up. They were rallying together, united in their fight to protect their world. There was no turning back now. Fight had begun, and they would finish it. But the Zara were relentless. As Jake led his squad through the city, the ground suddenly shook, and a massive explosion ripped through a nearby building. The Zara had called in reinforcements, large, heavily armed machines designed for heavy destruction. They were towering, mechanical giants that seemed unstoppable. Get to cover, Jake shouted as the machines advanced. The Zara war machines were powerful, but they were not invincible. Jake knew that they couldn't go toe-to-toe with such forces in an open fight, but he wasn't planning on fighting them head-on. Humans had learned to survive by being resourceful. And Jake had a plan. As the war machines approached, Jake and his team scattered, moving quickly through the city. They set more traps, using everything they could find to make the war machines vulnerable. The city's narrow streets and tight corners offered little room for the machines to maneuver. And that was exactly what Jake needed. Jake's squad lured one of the machines into a narrow alley. As it charged toward them, the humans set off a series of explosions. The blast sent debris flying, and the war machine was knocked off its path. It staggered, unable to move forward. Now was the time to strike, with quick precision. Jake and his squad launched their attack. They fired at the exposed weak points in the machine's armor. It took time, but they eventually brought the giant down. It crashed to the ground with a deafening roar. Jake took a deep breath, watching the fallen machine smoke in the middle of the street. They had won another small battle. But the war was far from over. As he looked around at his squad, he saw the determination in their eyes. They knew that this fight was far from over. Zara were still a massive threat, but they had one thing the Zara could never match: Earth's Deathworlders. The fight for Earth had only just begun. The sky was darkening, but the sounds of battle on Earth were only growing louder. The Zara fleet, though advanced in their technology, had not anticipated the fierce resistance from humanity. Jake's squad had done well to hold their ground, but they knew this was only the beginning. The Zara were relentless, and they were learning. The humans had to keep moving, keep fighting, or risk losing everything. Jake stood on the edge of a crumbled building, his eyes scanning the horizon. The Zara were regrouping, their forces growing as reinforcements continued to arrive. It brought in larger machines built for devastation, but Jake knew they wouldn't give up. Not now, not when they had already seen the strength of humanity. We can't keep hiding, Jake muttered, his voice almost lost in the chaos around him. His squad had been using hit-and-run tactics for the past few hours, but it was clear that the Zara weren't going to give them much more time. We're not hiding, came a voice from behind. It was Mark, a member of Jake's squad. We're surviving. Jake turned to look at Mark. The soldier's face was dirty, his uniform torn from the long hours of combat, but there was fire in his eyes. He had a point. The humans weren't hiding, they were adapting. Every minute they survived brought them closer to being ready for a direct attack. That's right, Jake said, nodding. We fight them on our terms. We know this planet better than they do. Just then, a loud crash echoed through the air. A Zara warship had landed nearby, releasing a squad of soldiers who were now making their way down the street. Jake motioned for his squad to move, and they quickly took cover behind a pile of rubble. They were running out of time, but they were also running out of options. Zara were coming. We need to take them out before they reach the center, Jake ordered. It's time we show them what Earth's Deathworlders can really do. His squad readied their weapons and moved quickly. They knew what to do. They'd been trained for situations like this, though they had never imagined it would come to this. Earth's warriors, fighting for their homes, for their families, for their world. The Zara soldiers marched toward the humans' position, their armor gleaming in the fading light. Their weapons were powerful and their numbers were steadily increasing. But Jake wasn't worried. The humans weren't just fighting with weapons, they were fighting with survival. As the first wave of Zara soldiers approached, Jake gave the signal. With a loud roar, his squad erupted from their hiding spots, firing their weapons and launching grenades. The Zara soldiers tried to fight back, but they weren't prepared for the humans' guerrilla tactics. Earth soldiers had learned to adapt quickly, using the environment to their advantage. One of the Zara soldiers took aim at Jake, but he ducked just in time, narrowly avoiding the blast, fired back, hitting the alien in the chest. Another Zara soldier attempted to flank his position, but Mark was quicker. Taking him down with a precise shot, the battle raged on, with both sides. Exchanging fire, the Zara had their advanced technology, but the humans had their instincts, their resilience, and their knowledge of the terrain. Every alleyway, every building, every street corner became part of the fight. The humans used everything they could. Find rocks, makeshift barricades, and even abandoned vehicles to turn the Tsar's own technology against them. Jake moved through the chaos, his heart pounding. He could hear the sounds of explosions and gunfire all around him. He was no stranger to battle, but this was different. This wasn't just a fight for territory. This was a fight for survival. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. We've got them on the run. Mark shouted from across the street. Jake turned to see one of the Zara war machines attempting to break through the humans' defenses. It was larger than anything they had seen before, a towering mechanical beast that could wipe out entire buildings. With a single strike, but it wasn't invincible. "Mark, take the high ground," Jake yelled. "We need to hit its weak points." Mark nodded and rushed to the nearby rooftop, where he could get a clear shot. Jake and the rest of the squad continued to lay down fire, distracting the war machine while Mark prepared for his shot. The machine's massive guns fired, sending shockwaves through the streets. It was fast, relentless, and seemed unstoppable. But Jake knew that the Zara hadn't accounted for the humans' determination. As Mark took aim, Jake's voice rang out. "Now!" Mark fired a well-placed shot at the war machine's exposed side, hitting its power core. It was a flash of light, followed by an enormous explosion. The war machine collapsed, its towering frame falling to the ground in a cloud of smoke and debris. The humans cheered, but there was no time for celebration. The battle was far from over. The Zara were regrouping, and they had more war machines. But Jake knew that humanity wasn't about to give up. They had survived against all odds before, and they would survive again. Keep pushing forward. Jake shouted, rallying his squad. "We're not done yet." As they moved forward, they encountered more Zara soldiers, but this time, they were ready. The humans had learned from each encounter, adapting their tactics and using their environment to their advantage. Every battle was a lesson. Every victory a step closer to driving the invaders off their planet. Jake looked around at his squad, seeing the tired but determined expressions on their faces. They had been fighting for hours, but they were not slowing. Down-Earth's Deathworlders were stronger than the Zara had ever imagined. The aliens might have the technology, but they didn't have the spirit of Earth's warriors. "This is our world," Jake thought, "and we'll fight for it until the last breath." With a renewed sense of purpose, Jake and his squad pressed on, determined to protect their homes and families. The Zara might have thought they could conquer Earth, but they hadn't realized yet what it meant to face the deadliest creatures in the galaxy. The battle for Earth was just beginning, and humanity was ready to prove that they were not to be underestimated. The battle for Earth was changing. As the humans fought on, the Zara invaders began to see the true strength of the Deathworlders they had underestimated. Earth wasn't just another planet. The humans weren't just another species. They were survivors, resilient, determined, and able to adapt in ways the Zara could never have imagined. Jake Harris had seen the change firsthand. When he first joined the Earth Defense Force, it was a job. He'd trained with his squad, preparing for any threats, but he had never expected an alien invasion. Now, the humans weren't just fighting to protect their homes. They were fighting for survival, Jake stood at the edge of a battlefield, surveying the area. The air was thick with smoke, and the sounds of distant explosions filled the air. The Zara forces were regrouping, but they were also learning. Each time the humans struck back, the Zara adapted. Their tactics grew more organized, and their machines grew more powerful. But humanity had not given up. The humans were still using the environment to their advantage. Hiding in the urban jungle of ruined buildings and empty streets, they were no longer just a few scattered soldiers. They were a united force, rallying behind the strength of their planet. Word had spread across Earth, and more people had joined the fight. What started as a resistance had turned into an army. Jake wasn't just leading his squad anymore. Was part of a larger movement. All over Earth, cities and villages were rising up. The Earth Defense Force had been stretched thin at first, but now they were growing. Every day, more civilians took up arms, training to fight against the Zara invaders. The tide was turning. "This is our world," Jake said to his team as they prepared for the next battle, "and we're going to make them regret ever landing here." His squad nodded, their faces tired but determined. They had been through many battles already, but this was different. They'd survived because of their ability to adapt, and now, the Zara were starting to see just how strong humanity could be. They were learning the hard way that Earth wasn't a world to be conquered, it was a world that would fight back. The humans had become more than just warriors. They had become a symbol of resistance, and the Zara were starting to realize that Earth wasn't just another target, it was the deadliest of all. The next few days were a blur of constant fighting. The Zara launched more attacks, but the humans responded quickly and fiercely. Jake's squad was no longer just fighting in small pockets of resistance. They were part of something bigger. They had become the heart of a growing human army. Cities once thought to be lost were now battlefronts, with humans organizing and fortifying their defenses. As Jake led his squad through a ruined neighborhood, he saw firsthand the strength of Earth's people. They weren't soldiers, but they were fighting like warriors. Families had come together, forming makeshift militias to protect their homes. The Zara might have had the technology, but the humans had something far stronger: unity. The ground shook beneath their feet as a group of Zara war machines rolled down the street. The machines were enormous, their weapons capable of leveling entire blocks. But this time, the humans weren't running. Jake signaled to his squad to take cover behind a line of crumbled buildings. The Zara didn't know it, but they were walking into a trap. "Ready?" Jake asked, his voice calm despite the approaching danger. "Ready," Mark responded, adjusting his weapon. "Let's show them what Earth's really made of." As the Zara machines advanced, Jake's squad moved into position. They had learned how to fight these massive machines, finding the weak spots in their armor and using the environment to their advantage. The humans had been forced to adapt, and they had done so with skill. When the Zara machines were in range, Jake gave the signal. Explosions rang out as the humans launched their attack. The machines staggered, their massive forms momentarily thrown off balance. The Zara soldiers operating the machines tried to retaliate, but they weren't expecting the guerrilla tactics the humans had developed. Humans used traps, explosives, and even the buildings around them to confuse and slow down the war machines. One of the war machines toppled over as the humans hit its weak point, a massive explosion sending debris flying in all directions. The Zara soldiers inside the machine struggled to escape, but it was too late. The humans had struck again. "Nice shot," Mark called out to Jake, a grin on his face. Jake didn't smile. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. There were more Zara soldiers, more machines, and more battles to fight. But for the first time, Jake felt something he hadn't felt before: hope. Humans were winning, and they were getting stronger every day. "We've got them on the run," Jake said, looking at the rest of his squad. "Keep pushing. We can win this." The next few days were filled with more fighting, but the humans continued to hold their ground. The Zara had underestimated Earth's Deathworlders, and now they were paying the price. Every victory brought the humans closer to driving the invaders off their planet. The humans had learned how to fight back, how to use every advantage they could find. and they were winning. Jake stood in the middle of a battlefield, looking out at the city. The war wasn't over, but the humans had shown the Zara that they were not to be underestimated. Earth had become a symbol of strength and resistance, and the Zara were starting to realize that their conquest of the galaxy had met its match. "This is just the beginning," Jake said to his squad. "The galaxy's about to learn what happens. When they mess with Earth, as the humans continued to fight, one thing became clear. The Zara had no idea what they were up against. Earth's Deathworlders were rising, and the galaxy was about to learn just how dangerous they could be. The Zara had underestimated Earth's defenders for too long. Every day their grip on the planet loosened a little more. What had begun as an invasion designed to be swift and easy had turned into a nightmare. The humans were no longer just resisting, they were pushing the invaders back. Jake Harris and his squad had seen the tides turn. Earth's warriors, men, women, soldiers, and civilians had come together as one force. They were no longer just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their planet, for their homes, for the future. With every battle, the humans grew. Stronger, more unified. Now, the Zara had no choice but to make their final push. They were preparing for the last stand. A massive counterattack that would either crush the humans once and for all, or force them to retreat from Earth entirely. The Zara fleet had gathered in space above the planet, and their war machines were once again on the ground, but the humans were ready. Jake stood at the front lines with his team, looking at the horizon. It was the calm before the storm. The battle would be fierce, but this time, the humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. "We're not giving up," Jake said quietly, his voice steady. His squad nodded in agreement, their faces grim but resolute. They had been through so much, but they had never wavered. They knew the stakes, and they knew what they had to do. "We've fought this hard," Mark said, his tone strong. "We're not letting them take our world." The final plan was set. Earth's resistance, now a large and organized army, would strike directly at the heart of the Zara's invasion forces. They had learned from every battle, every ambush, and every victory. The Zara might have the weapons, but the humans had the determination. Jake's squad was assigned to infiltrate the Zara's command center. It's the place where the invaders coordinated their operations. If they could take it out, they would cripple the Zara's ability to fight back. The day of the final battle arrived. Humans had prepared for this moment, gathering all their resources and uniting their forces. Across the world, people stood, together, ready to fight. In cities, towns, and forests, the humans set up their defenses. Ready to launch one last offensive, Jake's squad moved quickly through the rubble-filled streets, using every bit of cover they could find. The Zara's war machines patrolled the area, their weapons at the ready, but the humans had learned to avoid detection. Every move was calculated, every step was planned. They knew the Zara's patrols, their weaknesses, and how to outsmart them. As they neared the command center, Jake felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just another battle, this was the turning point. Zara had come to Earth thinking they would conquer it with ease, but they had never counted on the humans' fierce will to fight. Now, the humans had a chance to end it. Jake signaled for his team to take their positions. They were close now, just a few hundred yards from the command center. The Zara soldiers were everywhere, but the humans had learned how to strike quickly and quietly. They would use their environment once again, just like they had throughout the war, to win this fight. "We're ready," Jake said, looking around at his squad. They all nodded, their faces determined. This was it. The final battle, without a word. They moved in, taking out the Zara guards one by one, their movements swift and silent. The humans were not just soldiers anymore. They were predators, and the Zara were the prey.
Ow.
They had learned how to survive, how to fight back against impossible odds. The closer they got to the command center, the stronger the Zara resistance became. The aliens had fortified the area, but the humans had something the Zara couldn't match: the element of surprise. They moved swiftly, striking at the heart of the Zara forces with precision. The battle inside the command center was fierce. The Zara commanders were waiting for the humans, but they were too late. Jake and his squad infiltrated the building, taking down alien soldiers as they went. The Zara's advanced weapons couldn't match the humans' resourcefulness. The corner of the command center was a battlefield. But the humans were relentless. "We're almost there," Jake said, his voice tense. They had reached the heart of the command center, the place where the Zara coordinated their attacks. But they weren't done yet. They still had to take down the Zara leadership and end the invasion once and for all. Jake and Mark worked together to disable the Zara's main computer systems. The humans had studied their enemies long enough to know how their technology worked. Mark set the charges to disable the Zara's communication systems, while Jake took out the leader of the Zara's command staff. The battle was almost won, outside. The human army was fighting with everything they had. The Zara had sent wave after wave of reinforcements, but the humans were too strong now. Their tactics had evolved, and their army had grown. Every battle had prepared them for this final push. Earth's Deathworlders were unstoppable. As the last charge went off, the command center erupted in flames. The Zara's leadership had been defeated, their operations crippled. The humans had won. The final battle was over, but the war wasn't. Just about victory, it was about survival. Earth had been saved, and the Zara were driven from the planet. The humans had proven that they were more than just survivors. They were warriors, and the galaxy would never forget what had happened on Earth. Jake looked out over the battlefield, watching as the last of the Zara ships were driven away. The humans had done it. They had saved their planet. The war had been long and hard, but Earth had proven that it was a force to be reckoned with. "We did it," Jake said quietly, looking at his squad. "We won," Mark grinned. "We sure did." The humans had shown the galaxy that no one could underestimate Earth. The Zara had come to conquer. But they had underestimated the deadliest creatures in the galaxy, Earth's Deathworlders. The battle was over, but the humans had sent a clear message. Earth was not to be messed with. The smoke from the final battle still hung in the air as the last of the Zara warships retreated into the depths of space. The streets, once filled with the sounds of gunfire and explosions, were now eerily quiet. The dust from the battle had settled, but the humans who had fought and survived knew that this was only the beginning of a new era. Jake Harris stood at the edge of a ruined city, his eyes scanning the horizon. The sun was rising, casting a soft golden light over the landscape. It was a new day, but it felt different. The Earth that had once been on the verge of destruction was now free. The invaders had been driven away, and humanity had proven that it was a force to be reckoned with. The fight was over, but the war had left its mark. Cities were in ruins, homes were destroyed, and lives were lost. But there was also something else in the air: hope. The humans had not only survived, they had triumphed. The Zara had come with their advanced technology, their war machines, and their arrogance. But in the end, it was Earth's resilience that had won the day. Jake turned to see his squad walking toward him. They were tired, their faces smudged with dirt and ash, but there was a sense of pride in their steps. It fought side by side, and now they were ready to rebuild. "We did it," Mark said, clapping Jake on the back. "I didn't think we'd make it, but we did." Jake nodded, his eyes still on the horizon. "We didn't just survive, we won." The victory had come at a high cost, but it was a victory nonetheless. Across the planet, humans were already starting to come together to rebuild. The Earth Defense Force had grown into a massive force, and civilians who had once been afraid were now taking up arms and working side by side with the soldiers. There was a sense of unity, a shared purpose. The war had brought the world together, in a way nothing else could. But the humans knew that their fight wasn't just against the Zara. The invasion had shown the rest of the galaxy that Earth was a target, a vulnerable planet that could be easily taken. While the victory over the Zara was sweet, the humans knew that they had to prepare for whatever came next. The Zara had been just the beginning. As Jake walked through the streets, he saw the faces of those who had lost everything. Families who had been torn apart by the invasion. Homes that would never be rebuilt. The scars of the war were deep, and they would take time to heal. But Jake also saw something else. Determination. The humans weren't going to let this defeat them. They were going to rebuild, and they were going to do it together. "We have to be ready," Jake said, turning to Mark and the rest of his squad. "The Zara are gone, but there are other threats out there, and we need to be ready for them." Mark nodded, his expression serious. "I know. This was just the first fight. But now, we know what we're capable of." Jake turned and looked at the group of soldiers who had gathered behind him. They were no longer just a small squad fighting for survival. They were part of something bigger now. The war had changed them, had changed the world. The Earth Defense Force was growing, and soon it would be ready for anything. "We've shown the galaxy what Earth can do," Jake continued. "Now, we make sure they know not to mess with us again." The humans had learned a lot from their battle with the Zara. They had learned that survival wasn't just about technology or power. It was about will, about fighting for what mattered. They had learned that no matter how strong the enemy, Earth's Deathworlders would always rise to the challenge. As the days passed, the world began to rebuild. Cities that had been reduced to rubble were slowly coming back to life. People worked together, clearing the streets, rebuilding homes, and comforting those who had lost everything. It wasn't easy, and the scars of the war would take time to heal. But the humans had proven that they could overcome anything. They would. Across the planet, the Earth Defense Force continued to train, to grow stronger. No one knew when. The next threat would arrive, but the humans were ready. They had proven that they could survive. They had proven that they could fight back. And now, they were preparing for whatever came next. Jake stood before a crowd of soldiers and civilians, his voice strong as he addressed them. "We fought for our homes, our families, and our future. The Zara thought they could take us down, but they were wrong. This is our world, and we will protect it." The crowd cheered, their voices echoing across the open space. The weight of their support, the strength of the unity that had been forged in the fires of war. Earth had won, but the battle for the future was just beginning. The Zara were gone, but the galaxy had taken notice. The humans of Earth had proven that they were more than just survivors. They were warriors, and no one would ever underestimate them again. Jake looked out over the crowd, feeling the pride swell in his chest. The fight had been long, and the cost had been great, but humanity had won. And as the sun set on the horizon, Jake knew that Earth was ready for whatever came next. The galaxy would never forget the day Earth's Deathworlders had stood up and fought back.